Welcome to day 2 of the 15 Minutes to Quilt Sewing Challenge here at Quilt and Color. My name is Shalina, and I have another jam-packed video for you today. I'm going to be cutting up a quilt to make a logo for my channel. I saw a video the other day from So Yeah Quilting, which asked whether precuts limit your creativity. And so I wanted to give you my opinion on whether precuts limit creativity. We can talk about that while I'm making the logo for Quilt and Color. And of course, I'll give you the secret word of the day so you can enter to win prizes. I hope that you'll join along with me in my 15 Minutes to Quilt challenge every day. Let's get started. Do you remember this quilt banner that I showed you yesterday in my quick preview of my design wall? So today I wanted to make the rest of the words that said and color so I can have the quilt and color on my design wall. Sometimes when I'm standing in front of the blank design wall, it looks kind of empty, so I thought I could just make a banner that can be hanging out in the studio with me that just says Quilt and Color so people will remember my channel name and also remind you to have fun and explore your creativity. Last December on my channel, I gave you a video that showed you how to make a masterboard. Then you can cut it up to make things like postcards, artist trading cards, and bookmarks. And today I'm going to use that same fabric and cut it up into different pieces to make my letters. I also use the free website Canva to make my pattern for the letters. So on my channel this year I had created a video where I showed you how to make a masterboard, and in the masterboard we created this big piece of artwork, and then from that we cut it up into little pieces, and you can cut them up into different shapes that you like. This would be like a postcard size. This is like an artist trading card size. We've got bookmark size. And I also made triangles. I've cut out of this one already. I already cut out here. This is the U, I think. But you can make banners. So it's a great way to just make one big piece of artwork, and then you can just cut it up into pieces to make what you want to make. And this is a great idea for me. I really like this idea of cutting letters out of it. It'd be a great manipulatable, I can't say this word. I'm not a teacher, but it's a great way to like give to children so they can move letters around to make words. So it'd be great for them as well. And just if you had a special word of the day, if you had chosen a word of the day for 2026, maybe you could make something like that and put it up on your wall so that you have that daily reminder that it would be your word for the year. I still have these pieces, and I just didn't really feel like making a banner with these triangles, and so what I thought I'd do is just cut them up into letters for my Quilt and Color logo. And what I've done, I went to Canva, which is a free website where you can make presentations and posters and things like that and other graphics. I just typed out the letters that I wanted to have on there, chose a font that I liked, chose a size that I liked, and instead of printing it, I just traced over it so that I would have it. The reason I traced it instead of printing it is just because I was looking at this on the big monitor, and so they were not actual size, and instead of playing with the size some more, I just decided to just trace out the letter. So that's what I did, but either printing it would be just fine also. And so what I want to do today, while I'm talking about whether or not precuts limit your creativity, I'm going to cut out the letters from this quilt sandwich. And just to show you the sandwich here, it's got the two pieces of fabric on both, it's got fabric on both sides, and it has the batting inside. And it's already been quilted, and because it was just one big piece of fabric, I didn't quilt it very heavily, which is fine. And so that's what that looks like. After I cut out the shape, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and just enclose the seams with a satin stitch if I wanted to, or if I don't want to, I can just go ahead and just leave it the way it is. I guess if you're going to let your children play with it, then you probably do want to enclose the edges and put a satin stitch around it. I might still do that, but for now I'm just going to put the letters out on the design wall the way it is and worry about enclosing it later. So now it's just a matter of finding a scrap that's big enough to put the letters that I want on it. So I'm just going to tear out the letter. So it's a small enough size to be able to put on here. This scrap's not big enough, so I'll move to this one. And this one just barely fits when I move it on a diagonal, which is fine. This pattern is not directional, or I guess, it is directional, but it doesn't matter to me which direction they go to. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it from here. When you are tracing letters, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to the direction that it's going. The nice thing about this quilt sandwich is the fact that it's already sandwiched. I can just put this on the front of where I want it to be and just cut it out the same way that I want to. If your letters are reversed, then you would want to put it on the back of where you want to cut, so that your fabric will be, so the front of the fabric will show the letter going in the right direction. Now that I have the letter in place, I'm going to go ahead and pin it. Zoe says hi. So now my letter is pinned. I don't want to pin it too much just because the pins will get in the way of the cutting, but I do want to make sure that the letter is secure on my quilt. And then I'm going to use my scissors to just cut out the letter on the paper as well as the quilt at the same time. I'm not using my really good scissors because paper does dull the blade, so I'm just using regular scissors. They're sharp enough to cut, but it doesn't matter to me if these blades dull because I can just buy another one. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut all of these letters out while we talk about whether precuts limit creativity. So precuts, fabric is precut in a variety of sizes. This one is 5-inch squares, so these are charm packs. They also make fat quarters, which is 1/4 of a yard of fabric, which is a nice cut because it's a lot of fabric, but it still gives you enough to actually make a big quilt with it. And it's and because of the way it's cut 1/2 a yard and then cut in the middle to make a fat quarter. You still get 1/4 of a yard, but it's not a long skinny strip, because if it was just 1/4 of a yard this way, it's a nice long skinny strip that you can use to, if you're going to be strip piecing, things like that. But a fat quarter gives you more options of what size of fabric that you need. If you want, say, a big square, then you'd be able to cut big squares out of it. With a 1/4 yard, you're only getting 9 inches. And so if you need something that's more than 9 inches, then you can get a fat quarter. They also make small charms, which is, I think, 2.5 inches. There's also 10-inch squares, which is called a layer cake. There's just a variety of different sizes that are available, and you can match that according to the fabrics that you like and the kind of quilts that you like to make. They also make jelly strips, which is 2.5-inch strips. So if you do like to make strip quilts, those are nice small quilts, small strips that you can use. It goes all the way to the length of the fabric, and so you can use those also. So for me personally, I don't think that precuts limit creativity. One of the things, this is a precut that I have right in front of me, is a charm pack. And you get a nice variety of fabrics already put together by somebody, so you know that they're all going to match each other. And it saves you a lot of time. It saves you time from choosing all the fabrics. You know that they're going to match when you buy a precut. And also it is a particular size, so if you match your pattern to your fabric size, then you know it's going to be the right size for your project. And because of that, you'll be saving time both in choosing the fabrics. Now she's going to play. So she's going to play with her toy. So it really helps you with time, and I think that's a great reason. I think that's a great reason for using a precut. The other thing about using precuts that I like is the variety, because you're going to get a large variety of fabrics all at the same time, and you don't have to spend all your time cutting up lots of little pieces and worrying about having the same fabric over and over again. It saves you time at the quilt store, so you're not waiting for people to cut fabric. It's already cut for you, and you're getting a variety of fabrics. If you don't have a stash already, then precuts are a great way to get that variety of fabrics without having to wait at the cutting counter all day for them to cut lots of little pieces. The price of the precuts are sometimes more expensive by the yard because you're paying for the convenience. it does let you buy smaller pieces. So if you were, for example, taking, wanting to buy all these fabrics at the store, you'd probably have to buy their whatever their minimum is. Some fabric stores have quarter yard as their minimum. Other stores have half a yard. Some stores have 1 yard, and other stores have 2 yards, which I think is ridiculous. But there are minimums sometimes for fabrics, and so if you wanted a small piece, and getting precuts is a way for you to get that small piece without having to invest in a lot of yardage. I like to wait until the fabric goes on sale before I buy it, and a lot of times the pretty fabric, usually there's like one really pretty fabric, and then there's the surrounding fabrics who are all supporting players, and the pretty fabric usually is the first thing to leave to be finished. And so if you buy a pre-cut, you are likely to have that pretty fabric in your collection just because it's part of the pre-cut package. Another good thing about having pre-cuts is that you get to explore fabric combinations and see what matches each other. If you haven't learned yet how to choose colors for a quilt, it's a good way for you to get practice, hands-on experience, to see what fabrics go together. So for example, like on this particular package, I wouldn't have thought of adding red to this, but it really makes a big difference, and you can see that red is a good thing to add in a teal combination. I would not have thought of joining red and teal at the same time, but here you can see that it works really well. So it's a good way for you to see hands-on how to mix fabrics together. It may look like your quilt is going to look exactly like the same as everybody else's, but it doesn't really, because one, you're going to choose a different pattern. You could be choosing a different pattern. Also, you may be using a different background color. So depending on the background color that you use, it's going to make a big difference in how your quilt looks compared to anybody else's. And adding that background color also gives you that first step in getting confidence on how to match fabrics together. And if you get tired of seeing the same thing, because most pre-cuts will have the same fabric in different colorways. I'll show you. You can see here that this fabric pattern is the same, but the colors are different. And some people don't like the fact that there's the same pattern in the quilt, even though the colors are different. And because of that, you may start branching out on adding a different fabric from a different line. And you could use the same designer, or you can just use a different fabric line to add to your quilt to just change it up and make it yours. So you don't have to change out all the colors, but you can start out with the basic colorway and then one of each pattern, and then you can just switch it out to either not include a particular fabric at all, or just to switch it out with something else. And you'll find that as you are mixing and matching, you're going to find that what you like and what you don't like, what works together, what doesn't work together, and you'll see how a quilt looks different without a particular colorway. So for example, if I took out all the teals, then the quilt would look much different. Then I'll have a beige quilt, and that's a pretty colorway also, even without the teals. And then I could decide to add another pop of color, or I can choose other colors then I can just add other pops of color from the same collection. This is all the fabrics without the teal. Actually, I'm not sure. These are charm squares that I have, so I'm not sure if these are the same collection or a different collection, but they probably are a different collection. But just so you'll know that you can mix and match as you want. The secret word for today is color, and you can spell it either way, C-O-L-O-R or C-O-L-O-U-R. Either way, I'll give you credit. You can use a pre-cut, and just by selecting certain fabrics and not using certain fabrics, you can make a quilt that does look different from your friend who's using the same pre-cut. And mostly I think that because it's a slow progress where you're adding a background, then you're using or not using certain fabrics just because of the number of fabrics that you need for a quilt, and then you getting more confidence to add your own fabric, to change out the colorways. You get to learn what kind of colors that you like and what colors you like that go together. And it just helps you build up that confidence as you go along. I like using precuts because they're a fast way to make a quilt. If you need to make a quilt really quickly, then it's nice to be able to have that. So you know that they're already cut for you for the pattern. I do add some fabrics and take away some fabrics so that my quilt doesn't look like everybody else's. One of the things that people don't like about precuts is the fact that they have these ridges on the ends, and sometimes they're not cut exactly to the right size. And that's why I kind of like the fat quarters, because then I'm not trying to use their cutting, because sometimes the cutting is wrong and it's hard to tell, where's the end of the fabric. Is it here or is it at the bottom of the ridge? You have to use a ruler to figure that out. So you can use charm squares because it doesn't really matter where it is. If you're making a quilt with squares, it really won't matter which way it should go. As long as you're using a consistent seam allowance, it's fine. But if you're matching this with triangles or things like that, you do want to be more careful about the size of your square. A lot of fabric designers, they do try to design dark fabrics as well as light fabrics in their collection. But if you're buying a charm pack for a quilt, I would say that it would be good to really pay attention to the darks and the lights, because you may have some trouble with making a quilt depending on the pattern without having to add something else, because you probably will want to add a different background fabric, because usually with the background fabric you need a lot of it, and these little precuts are not going to give you a lot of that particular colorway that you want. You have to pay attention to the different collections, because some collections do have a lot of variety of darks and lights. Some collections look very matchy-matchy. Everything is the same exact colors. But there are other fabric designers who like to make their collections a little bit different from each other, so it doesn't look all matchy-matchy. So it's really up to you what kind of designs that you like and how much matching you want to do. And personally, I like to mix and match, so I will take two different pre-cut fabrics, usually by two different designers, and then just put them together if they coordinate, if I think that they coordinate with each other. And that way I have different shades of different varieties. I have different colors that I think go well together, and everything doesn't look exactly the same as every other fabric. I'm really curious to know what you think. Do you think that precuts limit your creativity? And while I was showing you all this fabric, I wasn't cutting, so let me just go ahead and cut this. This technique is going to leave you lots of little tiny scraps, which you could throw away, or you could cut them into smaller shapes depending on what you want to do with them. So I recommend doing the biggest letter first with his capital letters here, and then work on the smaller ones. Okay. And as you can see, it's pretty quick and easy. And here is my C for Quilt and Color. I like to work on the big parts of this shape first, and then work out the details afterwards so that this excess isn't in the way. And I'm not trying to be that careful to make sure that it's cut exactly right on the line. As long as it just looks like the letter that I want it to look like. And when you're cutting the center out, you know that you can be as messy as you can on the inside of it, so it's fine if you just make it jagged and then straighten it out afterwards. And there you go, I have an A. And this is what it looks like on the back. I put this fabric on both sides. Even if I'm not putting the letters on backwards, it would still be just fine. If you're afraid of poking yourself with the pin, you might want to use a safety pin instead. I'll go ahead and do the rest of the letters off camera so you don't have to just watch me cut. And then I'll be back to show you the results. Here's a quick reminder of how you can enter to win in the drawing. There are 2 ways. The first way is to do something creative for 15 minutes today. Just leave a comment to let me know what you worked on today. And the second way is to make sure that you use a secret word in your comment. You can see here what a big mess that this made. And here are my letters. We're going to go ahead and put them on the design wall. So there you have it for my 15 minutes to quilt today. I cut out the letters. I cut out the letters for my logo, Quilt and Color. I'm not sure whether I'll put it on a background so I can move it around quickly, but for now, I think if I put it high enough up, then it won't be in my way for actually using it as a design wall. I hope that you did have a chance to sew along with me today, and if you did, make sure that you write in the comments what you worked on today so you can enter to win the drawing. Also, don't forget to use your secret word. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all your support, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you for watching Quilt and Color. I appreciate all of your support. Which video are you going to watch next? Don't forget to like and subscribe.